Welcome to Ashes to Love podcast, hosted by Marta Miner, with guests who have walked through fire and emerged stronger than ever. Let their stories light up your way.
Hey everyone, good morning. Oh, I always say good morning, but it could be the night for you if you're listening. Anyways, we decided that if we're going to have real conversations together, that we would find ways to have coffee chat / pop-up style conversations about what's really juicy and relevant in our world. And of course, what often happens is like Marta's learning something, Ushi's learning something, the clients are learning something, and it all has the same theme to it. And this week, this little bug, I'm going to call it a bigger bug. It's like this germ called perfectionism has been plaguing all these incredible, brilliant women, including ourselves, and just noticing what is it? 100% we believe in excellence, Marta. We
Yes.
believe in quality and giving your best for sure. But these structures or these ways of being and doing that require us to be perfect in order for it to run or to give or feed us something or to nourish us. It's, oh, for you to work, I have to be perfect. And we set them up ourselves, right?
Yes.
Let's talk business, right? For example, let's talk business. Like, oh, cool. I have a lot of followers. I'm creating all this content. I'm doing all the right things. How great. I've arrived. I've arrived. I'm so excited. Only to find out, oh God, I have to keep doing that to have what I want. It's just like a setup for the blahs, like the nervousness, the anxiety, the overachieving, us this week trying to have the master plan for all of our life and realizing, wait a minute, like this is the whole reason. So perfectionism, have some coffee with me. Tell me what you think about perfectionism.
Good morning, Ushi. Good morning, everybody. And yeah, perfectionism, like we can talk about it for ages. And it's a topic that would never end for me because I think it's very challenging for women like you and I to distinct like where perfectionism kicks in and where that excellence and quality work, like where is that line? Because both of us are very dedicated to giving our very best in every aspect of our life. We want to have close to perfection by being a parent and in our businesses and our appearance and in everything, how we present ourselves to the world. We want to deliver quality. But unfortunately, a lot of times we go a little bit further and it goes into perfectionism and it stops us from being able to deliver anything, really, right? Because when you are waiting to start a business, when everything is perfect, when you're waiting to have a child, when your life is perfect, when you're waiting to start dating, when your body is perfect, when you're waiting for that, you're really like putting your life on hold and you're not able to reach your goals, really. And it stopped us so many times, I feel like, in a variety of aspects of our life, is where we strive for that perfectionism instead of just saying, hey, I'm good enough as I am right now. I accept myself with these imperfections, not being a full finished product, and I'm just going for it anyways. It's a very hard distinction sometimes for me. It's like, when is it good enough to launch or feel like I'm already enough to be able to present myself in whatever aspect of life? And where is it that we're going overboard and it's unnecessary? That's the question that we want to ponder in this podcast today.
Yeah.
Do you have good examples in your life where you've stopped the project because you were waiting for it to be perfect?
Yeah, everything. Yeah, I had a little bit of a flip on that. The reason I was able to answer your question for myself was because I started looking at it from this angle of, hey, Ushi, if this person requires you to be perfect for you to be in their life, do you want that person there? Do you want that client there? Do you want whatever that thing is there? And for a long time, I was caught up in it that I thought, yeah, oh, they're bringing out my greatness and how cool. Like I'm rising. And I thought, now on the other hand, I also don't want somebody who's be whatever you want to be because that's not true to who I am either.
Yeah.
I want people to have standards for me and I want to have standards for people. But the idea that if I'm dressed right or if I'm the right weight oh, then I'm going to deem you as somebody I'll follow, Ushi. Forget that I have wisdom. Forget that I've
Yeah.
overcome something. Forget that I actually have a model that's worked for X number of people. When I come from that place, I'm like, oh, I don't need to be perfect because I can
Mm-hmm.
stand in my center and know my track record and know my heart and what I bring.
Mm-hmm.
This is the thing, the heart. So track record is easy to see. Okay, I've helped X number of people go from this to this. But in matters of the heart, Marta, it really bugged me when people couldn't see who I really was. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if I were to say, if they were like, in this situation, you got mad. Yeah, I got mad. It was like an angering
Mm-hmm.
situation.
Yes.
And I think the perfectionist self shows up and says, I'm not angry, or suppresses the anger and shows up as the good girl and she's smiling pretty. And I've done
Mm-hmm.
that too, because in those moments I thought, oh goodness, I have to be who that person wants me to be. I'm not at all saying I'm advocating for Ushi tearing people up because she's so angry. But it was like examples like that where, no, look, I am angry, but I also, you across from me know my heart, and I'll
Mm-hmm.
always choose what's best and the higher good for everyone because that's who Ushi is. That's where it flips the script for me is more perfection around how people are judging my goodness as a
Mm-hmm.
person, which is
Yeah.
fundamentally insecurity. I know I can own that it's
Yeah.
my own insecurity. When your insecurity takes the best of you or blinds you a bit, then for me, then it's like, oh yeah, how much more could I find the right word for this thing? You've seen me do
Yeah.
it. Even in describing the podcast, I'm like, let me ponder for 5 weeks about the word vitality. Is it the right word or not? Stop.
Oh,
Stop, Oosh. And it comes
yes.
from care. Look, it comes because I want so bad for this thing to work. The podcast, for example. You have your
Mm-hmm.
own example around the podcast that I hope you share too. And that is
Mm-hmm.
we set out to make a difference for people and to share something that we thought would move their heart. And very quickly, because you and I are who we are, for me, it got into, oh my God, is it beautiful enough?
Yes.
Is it this enough? Is it that enough? And it has to be the instead of just being like, I like having coffee with Marta, which was the
Mm-hmm.
total genesis of the thing in the first place. So that's
Yes.
most recently, but you can take that example to my business dealings or, to how I produce content for myself or even speaking for me. If for so long I'm like, oh, I'll do that and I'll put myself out there when I lose the postpartum weight,
Yes.
when it
Oh,
was precisely the postpartum weight that women needed to see to put themselves out
exactly.
there, right? So those things. Yeah.
That's exactly it. And there's so much to say on this topic because I'll start with when you mentioned my own story with the podcast is we had an idea and I had this passion project on my heart for a very long time, but I haven't done it for many reasons. And most of them are perfectionism. Like I wasn't ready because I'm not perfect yet. My life is not perfect. I can't display it to the public. I have a lot of different things happening right now with my health. I don't want to display that. There's just so much going on that I'm like, it's not the right time. But then I started thinking, first of all, most people should be able to see us in more of a raw setting because they are experiencing the same thing in their life. And if everything that's presented to people is perfect, nobody can identify with that. So, a lot of things with the podcast that I felt was holding me back is that number one, I have an issue that I can't speak right now because my throat closes off with some weird allergy and I can't even finish a sentence sometimes, right? And it's very embarrassing. And I'm like, how am I going to have a podcast when I can't speak? So I'm like, okay, let's just figure it out. Somehow we'll get through it. Secondary thing is that I have a brain fog right now. Something happened after COVID and after having my baby where I feel like my brain cells either were given to my daughter during birth and I no longer have them because I consider myself extremely smart and intelligent, but sometimes I can't get my words to come out. And I'm like, how can you speak to people when you can't get your words out, right? So those are the two reasons. And there's many others where we felt like maybe it's not the right time. I'm too busy. I'm like, okay, listen, you have something to say and you want to bring a lot of amazing women to interview in this podcast to show other people how you can overcome challenges in your life. And if what's going to stop you from doing it is your insecurity about whatever I perceive as a bad thing. Third thing for me is my accent, right? I'm Polish. Sometimes I don't say the right thing. And I'm like, I'm going to do it anyways. I'm going to do it for myself to prove myself that it's okay to do it, even if you're not ready or obstacles show up in your life. And secondary, you and I want to do it because we want to empower other women that feel like they're not good enough to pursue their passion, dream, or whatever is on their heart to display to the world, because they may have some insecurities about them, right? They may feel, like you said, overweight after having a baby. I'm going to wait till I lose the weight. Then life may open up differently to you and you won't have that opportunity anymore. So, as much as it's really painful to talk about your own struggles, and we don't really love displaying it like that to the public, the reason for this podcast is we want to be real and raw, to give other people permission to be real and raw and pursue their dreams no matter how they feel they will be judged or they judge themselves, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And to do the thing anyway, I think it's both. For me, it's do it anyway. That's one of the hurdles to cross around
Mm-hmm.
perfectionism, and call it what it is: fear, doubt, any of those things, inner critic that come up to tell you it's not the right time. That's one.
Mm-hmm.
And then secondly, that I feel I really have to keep coming back to. It was such a big aha for me that if I don't want to build something that requires me to have anxiety, that requires me to get out of her center in order for it to succeed. Like, when we take the pressure off of ourselves, you and I have the greatest creativity, we have the greatest excitement, things come so easy. And even though intellectually, and even I've experienced this in my body, it's so easy to go back to this thing called the not good enough, perfection, cracking the whip in your head if you don't do it this way. And my big thing is that the second I start comparing myself, you're going, life is like you're full of ease. Okay, the ideas are coming, the decisions are happening, clarity is there. And then all of a sudden you see that one person, whatever you're making up in your head about that person, right? Oh, so and so is like this. You have no idea who they are. You have no idea what they're really going through, and you find some metric that they have that you don't, and then now comes the
It
anxiety,
knocks you
and now
down to your knees.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's a choice. I feel it knocked me down in my 20s. In my 30s, it made me mad, and now here in my early 40s, mid 40s, and now no, I really feel like I've gotten to a place of, okay, Oosh, you got a choice. You have
Yeah.
a choice. Number one
Mm-hmm.
choice is you could go into the disempowered place, or you could go and say, yeah, cool, good on you, you have X
Mm-hmm.
metric, and here's how in my life I also have something that's meaningful to me. So that's one choice. The other
Mm-hmm.
choice, which is what I did, which is why we're having this pop up, is I said, Marta, this is happening for me, and you were like, no, we're not going down that path. So the other choice is to surround yourself with people who do acknowledge you and who do remind you and smack you around a bit. That's a big joke. I just want to be clear, out of context. That could
Yeah.
sound horrible, but I think it's who you surround yourself with that says, go for the excellence, go do your thing. But aren't you comparing yourself a little bit, Ushi? Or aren't you thinking ahead? That's what we all always do. Oh my God, in
Yeah.
5 years, when the podcast like this, what are we going to do? We could let 5 years come and then figure
Yeah.
it out then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and because
So
we live in this world of comparison, because we are on social media, a lot of us, and we are a generation that compares, and everybody displays the best part of their life on Instagram, and we
highlight
all think
reel.
that's reality.
Yep.
And now my child is born into a world where she thinks everybody has a perfect life and perfect toy and perfect vacation except for her. And when then, like it or not, but we're built this way as humans to compare. And a lot of times it's really funny because when you actually get to know the person that you either envy their life or portion of their life, or you perceive them as something, and you meet them, and it turns out, wait a minute, maybe they were just displaying that portion because everything else is a mess in their life. And I was so jealous of their life, or I felt like, why do I not have this or that? Like, it's all perception. I'm not going to put my worst day of my life on Instagram, right? All my insecurities are not going to end up on Instagram. But then I look at Ushi, I'm like, but she has it all. She has it all. Look at her life. And we all compare ourselves to the image that is completely unattainable and feel
Yeah.
bad about ourselves. What world do we live in? It is not fair.
No. That is the question. My kids don't have a phone yet, but I wonder what's going to happen when they do start seeing that,
Yeah.
and it does scare me. I'm willing to have the conversations, and I'm willing to lift them up with my language, and I'm doing again all the right things to prevent them from having any have what you're going to have, the one that scares me the
Mhm.
most is that they think that they're less because of what they see there. And then it's so funny. I'm worried about that in my kids, but then that's the thing I have to check in myself.
Yeah.
And I've talked about this before on our podcast, but for me, like I'm in the industry. Okay. I'm in the industry of, I have in my younger years Photoshop people to look brilliant. Like I know what it
Mhm.
takes. I know
Yeah.
makeup teams. I know all this stuff to what it takes to look like that. And so when I saw all these gorgeous, and they are gorgeous, regardless of what they're choosing to do, they're beautiful people looking like what they did 3, 4 days after birth, and just
Mm.
having to look at myself feeling wrecked and physically distraught. Like I lost that eye line to the beauty of what really just happened,
Mhm.
which was that this girl grieving for her father, birthed a human, created the
Mhm.
human, is there for her humans. But I'm
Mhm.
telling you, it's easy for me to say this now. When I was in it, I was like, whoa, poor John, too. He was like, could we not with the you have to have perfect baby? Because he doesn't think that way. My husband,
Yeah.
John, he
Mhm.
doesn't think that way. But it had me, it had its grips. Okay. So he forbade me to go into social media. So that's one
That's what I was
option.
going to say. It's
Yeah.
almost like should be forbidden for postpartum mothers to even
Yes.
have an Instagram, you know?
Yeah. And okay, hey, Ushi, guess now I can say these things to myself. Guess what? They all had their own journey. Good on them. Hey, guess what? You didn't look like that, but good on you. I want to be that mentally strong. And for the most part, I am. But there is sometimes like you got to know, you and I were talking earlier about what's your Achilles heel around it. Mine
Mhm.
is always monetary success, or you were saying something about self-expression. If you
Yeah.
see somebody who looks like, because I know I don't want arrival, whatever that means. I've arrived. I was like, no one's
Oh, yeah.
arrived. So it's not, that's not what I'm after. It's more like, and for me too, monetary success isn't about money. It's about the ease with which they look like they're running their businesses, to be very clear. The ease with which they look like they're bringing in the money or they're breadwinning or whatever. That's the part I'm like, ooh, Achilles
Gotcha.
heel, because for me,
Mhm.
it's not easy. I do work. I do as much as there is ease and love in what I do, but for sure I work at night, and for sure, like there's no gold at the end of the rainbow story here. Like I'm working and I'm
Yeah.
sacrificing. And so when I see somebody who's like, it's so effortless for me, oh, does it throw me off my game? Because I'm like, oh, it's
And
not
you,
effortless for me.
when did we adopt this mentality? That's what people want to see. I just wonder the beginning of Instagram. I've been on it for a long time, but I never noticed when that happened, that all of a sudden we're promoting that it has to look effortless, perfect, amazing. And why do people identify with that? That's what I'm wondering. Because we all have struggles, but for some reason, we're only showing how we've arrived or our life is amazing and perfect. And why are we doing that? Why do we not have conversations like you and I? That's why I love our conversations. And that's why I wanted to bring it to the world, because they were so raw and real, right? Like you and I talk deep about stuff that really is happening. But for some reason, we've created a society where everything has to be perfect. And everybody compares themselves to that image that is unattainable. Like you think that their business runs smoothly and effortlessly because that's what they portray on Instagram. You don't know how many more hours a night they stay up to take care of their stuff, right? But it looks like it. And there's
Yes.
a lot of coaches that say, come on, I'll teach you how to do it on 1 hour a day. There is a book I read like maybe 15 years ago, 5 Hour Work Week, I think it's called,
Or yeah,
right?
Tim Ferriss. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was
Yes.
like, that's what I'm gonna do. And I actually did create that when I was in like I was in management and pharmaceutical sales years ago. I was able to work myself to the ground until I finally created something along those lines because I put people in places and eventually it worked. But I think nowadays people are raised that everything is easy and you can just create Instagram account and be successful. And I'm having conversations with young people that say, I don't really want to work. I just want to have money for vacations and travel. And I just want it to be easy. And I want to be a nurse, but I don't really want to work. And I'm like, excuse me. I don't know if I have it wrong or if the energy in the world is shifting where really it's becoming easier. I think you and I are used to like hard work pays off. And eventually, yes, you can create maybe that, I wouldn't say 5 hour work week, but maybe let's say 15-hour work week, maybe one day.
Yeah.
But the new
Well,
generation doesn't believe in that. They say instant fame, instant money, let's go.
New generation, all my clients who are above 45 sometimes say that to me too. Everyone wants ease. I think it's a couple things, right? One is that the world has gotten actually very hard because you have these schedules and we've bought into this certain way of living where, again, it requires you to be super people. Like when someone is always, Ushi, what's your superpower? I was like, nothing. Like, stop it with my superpower. Stop it with my superwoman. That's not what I'm here for. Don't want that
Yeah.
identity. Don't call me a hero because it's too much, not only pressure, but if I'm amazing at design, it's not a superpower. It's because humans can be good at design. Now, some humans can't, some humans can, or some humans can cultivate it, but it's like these superpowers. It's like everything is like super, super. And I think to myself, like, who cares? Like, I'm super calm. My kids always say
Mm.
that to me too. Mom, I'm super calm. I'm like, good.
That is
There's
the
a little
best
bit of a
power you can have in the world, I would say. Super calmness, if you can achieve that in your life.
Yeah, but that's the thing we're chasing. That's what I mean is I feel like we've look, I can only speak from my own head and my own like neuroses is that I create
My
this
neurosis.
scenario, right? Like I create this world where I have to achieve, I have to do all of these things to feel a sense of validation. I'll use that word. I'll say
Mm-hmm.
my coach used that word on me this week and I was like those one of those moments where fine, it's true. Let me go process this. You can't even
Mm-hmm.
argue.
Yeah.
Are you in it, Ushi, for the purpose of what you wanted or what you intended, or are you seeking validation? And it's in that moment with that example, I was like, okay, girl
Yeah.
is seeking validation. But I think what's happening is it's a mix, right? You want to keep up. You want good things for your life. You want good things for the people you love. Literally, if somebody told me that if I stood on my head for 2 hours, it would mean my kids experience no pain, of course I would do it. But then I was like, nah, come on, they can have a little bit of bruising.
Yeah.
That's where I'm coming back to. But I also want to share this is the most random example, but it shows when you asked, like, where is this coming from and why did we buy into it in the first place or
Yeah.
start using it as a tactic in the first place? One time I was designing and doing my Ushi designs, which are like definitely overachieving, but man, can I nail it? Like I can acknowledge myself for that. But it takes a lot, right? It
Mm-hmm.
takes so much. And then people say to me, oh, I want that. And I'm like, okay, do you know what it took to get there? Do you want that? And the answer is like the ones who want it and the ones who don't,
Mm-hmm.
which is a great thing that I've arrived at in my business. This one person said to me, Ushi, everybody knows that if you're designing for the masses, everybody knows that if you're designing for the masses, the only thing that works is black and white fonts and simple fonts like you can find on Microsoft Word. Like basically, we have no use for your design here because when we're designing for the masses, it needs to be like dumb, basically.
Mm.
And it just in the moment, there was a lot to have in it. One, I wanted to argue. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But the insecurity in me was like, oh, so that's what I think happened is that social media, all these things, you're seeing so many more people now. We are trying to train for the masses, edit for the masses,
Mm.
perfect for the masses,
Mm-hmm.
but that the masses are always going to need the middle thing, right? And so why not just let us all off the hook and be us in
Mm-hmm.
context, respect the context. I always say this too, don't be so you that you're rolling up in the boardroom with your yoga pants on. That's
Yeah.
not being you. That's being blind to what your context is, right? And they're going to think you lost your cookies. So you're not going to get the impact you want. I'm talking more about, okay, in the face of this world that everyone's buying into, Ushi, what do you hold yourself accountable for? What quality do you want to bring? What attitude do you want to bring? And bring it. And that's when you and I were like, okay, let's calm down. Let's just do the thing we
Mm-hmm.
want to do. Let it be what it's going to be. Doesn't mean we're not working on the technicalities. Doesn't mean we don't want relevant topics. Doesn't mean we don't want something that people want to listen to, but not 5 weeks on the word vitality. Like, no, we don't need to be doing that. For what did I
Mm-hmm.
think I was going to get? Control, for one. Thought I was
Yeah.
going to control my trajectory, which is
Mm-hmm.
design my trajectory is a different story, but control it
Mm-hmm.
is where I get into trouble.
And I think what you said about with black font appealing to everybody is I think with this podcast we're trying to do the opposite. We're not necessarily wanting to appeal to everybody and bring topics that appeal to everybody. We want to cultivate environment where people that are real, that want deep real conversations, can hear something that can help them, create a community around women that are like us, where we're like, no, I don't want to live in this world where I have to conform to all these rules that black font must be the only way. Your designs are like the opposite of black font. It
Even
brings
though I love a good black
personality.
font.
Great, that's fine. But I
Yeah,
think
totally.
just like you and I are not for everybody, not everybody's going to identify with us. And I'm completely fine with that, because for me, I'm not going for followers. I'm not going for massive whatever the followers bring. I'm going for real. I want to be surrounded by people that are real, that are authentic, that can hear this message and resonate with it. And I think same thing with social media. I just don't, yes, it's fun to have millions of followers, I'm sure, but it comes with such pressure that you have to now deliver to all these people something that's super neutral, because you are going to hurt or offend somebody at some point, right? I don't know how people navigate through having multi-millions, because I guess in one way they do like controversy, because controversy will spark more comments, and more comments puts you even at higher visibility. So people do that even on purpose, create that kind of controversy. But I'm all about realness. I just want to be real in this world and surround myself with people that are similar, and not really be me the way I was designed by God to be, and be you, Ushi, the way you are, with all your strengths and skills. And you're not going to fit into every single somebody's idea of what a perfect brand or design is. So I think just giving ourselves that permission to be ourselves, like regardless of what social media thinks about it. Like I just really don't care anymore. I'm to the point that I'm too old to really fall into this trap. Like maybe when you're in your 20s and you have a lot of time still to fall on your face, but I've already fallen so many times. I'm like, now I just want real. I want real life, real conversations, real me, real discussions, real people. And if you don't like my font, then you're not for me.
Yeah. God, do I love a good font though. Okay, but I digress. No, I love what you're saying. And I think for me, the most important thing about this week and the juiciness of all of our perfectionism gone wrong, and by wrong, like hard, making something hard that didn't need to be hard. That's what I want to say is what perfectionism does for me. And then when I really released it and said, came back to what you just said, what am I doing here? What really matters to me? And not being tricked by some trigger where you start to diminish and compare yourself, right? But to just come back to that place that says, no, this is what I'm here for. I'm sure it's right and wrong in the context of all of that for somebody. Like you said, if they have a different goal, it might not work. But for what I'm doing, what are my tactics? For what I'm doing and my clarity, what is my strategy? That brought Marta and I a sense of peace this week. It gave us that calm and fun and lightheartedness. So thanks for joining. This was our pop-up and coffee chat. And please do share about your perfection tendencies and how you overcome them at She Is the Phoenix, she.is.the Phoenix on Instagram. It's very important to us that what's in the field, so to speak, that we give voice to it so that all of us together can rise, elevate, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're here for. Not perfect, but to be,
Yes.
to live the way we want to live and a life we love. So thank you so much, Marta, for being juicy in the field with me around perfectionism this
No,
week.
thank you. And yes, we just want to encourage everybody to start before you're ready. I want to just finish with this quote that's always in my mind is you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start in order to become great. So if you're sitting there and wondering if you're good enough, perfect enough, if you're whatever you're preparing to launch or do is good enough, you're never going to get there. So with that, we're going to leave you think about it. And we loved having you here with us and listening to those two crazy ladies that maybe have their own idea of how it should be, but at least we're being real and honest and displaying our insecurities out there for you guys. So thank you for being with us, and we'll chat with you in a week.
Bye.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider sharing it with your friends or family members who may also benefit from it. And please don't forget to subscribe and check us out on Instagram at Ashes to Love. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.